It is impossible to estimate the human toll when a population faces a decade plus of terror like this, never knowing where it's coming from, who or when, plus the lives and the talent lost. The U.S. and other nations are trying to fight back militarily. VOA carried this article in November. It said, U.S. military drone strike kills more than 100 Al-Shabab in Somalia. Last year, AFRICOM, the U.S. Africa Command, they carried out 30 of these counterattacks on terror. So as the world comes together to try to crush Al-Shabab, we're getting a better understanding of this group and its membership. But what's happening here in the U.S., at home, to stop the flow there? Plus, as ISIS declines in stature, could Al-Shabab possibly see a resurgence? I talked with David Sterman, who studies this issue at a leading nonprofit called New America. David, are there more Omar Hamamis out there in the U.S. right now?
So jihadist extremism is a persistent, albeit manageable problem for the United States. And if we understand Omar Hamami as an individual who raised in the United States, developed towards a radical jihadist view, and then joined Al-Shabab in Somalia, there are certainly many people in the U.S. who continue to develop along such a path. 2015 was an unprecedented year for jihadist terrorism-related arrests in the U.S., according to our data at New America. However, most of those arrests were not related to Al-Shabaab.
What we saw before the rise of ISIS was many aspiring terrorists, including those from America, wanted to get to Somalia because of groups like Al-Shabaab. Do you think we could see a resurgence?
We haven't really seen Al-Shabaab having much influence upon Americans in the past couple of years, being dwarfed by ISIS. However, we've seen signs that such would not be impossible. For example, the attackers in Garland, Texas, who attacked a cartoon contest,
drawing a Muhammad
were actually in communication with a militant in Somalia who had left the United States.
I wonder, what have churches, what have police officers in these areas, the community coalitions, what have they been doing?
Absolutely. So in the sort of 2006 to early 2010s period, when the largest group of individuals left the U.S. to fight with Al-Shabaab in Somalia, there was much less understanding of the jihadist threat and the potential for a homegrown threat in the U.S. And in addition, the conflict in Somalia had much more of a national, local character, which could potentially be justifiable in some people's minds. Whereas the current strain of jihadist ideology promoted by ISIS is really far more challenging. So that, in combination with just general interaction with the community and efforts by the government to build up resilience, has really constrained the potential for a renewed flow.
Is there a bigger attempt to surveil certain communities that might be places like right picking for Al-Shabaab or other groups that are similar in the Trump era, or is it pretty status quo?
Trump certainly called during the campaign for a much more aggressive approach to surveillance of Muslims, specifically as Muslims, not based on more particular probable cause elements. However, as I noted, that's really unclear whether or if there's been any change on that. What we do know is that the Trump administration has pursued the travel ban, which has put an extensive pressure on many of these communities, including the Somali community, despite the travel ban having no real effect on American security. None of the deadly attackers in the United States since 9/11 would have been prevented by the travel ban. None of them came from travel ban countries.